George S. Patton was a key American general during World War II who led Allied forces in some of the war's most important campaigns. He first gained attention in 1942 when he took command in North Africa after early U.S. losses. His leadership helped turn the tide against German and Italian forces, restoring discipline and pushing the enemy back. In 1943, Patton led the invasion of Sicily, where his fast-moving troops helped secure the island and force German withdrawal. He later commanded the U.S. Third Army in Europe, where his forces broke through German lines in France after D-Day and advanced rapidly across the continent. Patton was feared by the Nazis for his aggressive tactics and rapid armored advances. He struck quickly, with little warning, often moving faster than German forces could react. His unpredictability and momentum made him one of the most dangerous Allied commanders. German intelligence viewed him as the most capable American general and even believed he would lead the main invasion of France, which helped the Allies deceive them during Operation Fortitude. One legendary moment came during the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944. When German forces launched a surprise attack, Patton turned his entire army north within 48 hours, an incredible feat, and helped rescue the besieged town of Bastogne. This swift response played a major role in stopping the German offensive. Patton's official position during much of the war was commander of the U.S. Third Army, a role he held from 1944 through the end of the war in Europe. His leadership, speed, and daring made him one of the most effective and feared generals of the Allied forces. Bernard Montgomery was one of Britain's most important generals during World War II and played a key role in several major Allied victories. He first gained fame in 1942 during the North African Campaign when he took command of the British Eighth Army. At that time, German Field Marshal Erwin Rommel had been making steady gains, but Montgomery turned the tide. His leadership at the Second Battle of El Alamein marked a turning point in the war. With careful planning and strong defensive tactics, Montgomery led the Allies to a major victory, forcing Rommel's forces into retreat across North Africa. Montgomery was feared by the Nazis for his methodical and disciplined approach to warfare. Unlike more impulsive generals, he preferred to build up overwhelming strength before launching attacks. While this cautious style sometimes caused friction with more aggressive commanders like George Patton, it made him a formidable opponent. German commanders, including Rommel, respected his ability to organize and hold firm under pressure. His presence on the battlefield often signaled that a major and well-prepared offensive was coming. One legendary moment in Montgomery's career was his leadership during the D-Day invasion on June 6, 1944. He was the overall commander of all Allied ground forces during the Normandy landings. It was one of the most complex and risky operations in military history, and Montgomery's planning and leadership were essential to its success. He helped coordinate the British, Canadian, and American troops in the days and weeks after the landings, pushing back German forces and securing a foothold in Western Europe. During the war, Montgomery held several top positions, most notably as commander of the British Eighth Army, and later as commander of all Allied ground forces during Operation Overlord. His steady leadership, strong morale building, and battlefield successes made him both respected and feared by the enemy. Dwight D. Eisenhower was the supreme commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force in Europe during World War II, and one of the most important leaders of the entire conflict. Unlike battlefield generals such as Patton or Montgomery, Eisenhower's role was not to lead troops in combat, but to plan and coordinate the massive Allied war effort across Europe. He was responsible for bringing together the military forces of the United States, Britain, Canada, and other Allied nations into a unified command, an enormous task that required both strategic skill and diplomatic finesse. Eisenhower was feared by the Nazis not because of battlefield aggression, but because of his ability to lead a vast coalition with incredible efficiency. Under his command, the Allies launched Operation Overlord, the invasion of Nazi-occupied France. The Germans knew that once Eisenhower's invasion force landed, it would be only a matter of time before the Western Front collapsed. Hitler and his generals respected Eisenhower's ability to organize large-scale operations and manage complex logistics, which allowed Allied armies to keep up constant pressure on German forces from the west while the Soviets advanced from the east. One legendary moment in Eisenhower's career was D-Day, June 6, 1944. As the architect of the largest amphibious invasion in history, Eisenhower made the final call to launch the assault on Normandy despite risky weather conditions. The success of D-Day opened the door to the liberation of France and the eventual defeat of Nazi Germany. Eisenhower's calm, steady leadership in the days leading up to the invasion, including a handwritten note taking full responsibility if the landings failed, showed his character and earned him deep respect from both his peers and his troops. Eisenhower's official position during the war was Supreme Allied Commander in Europe. In this role, he directed not only the D-Day invasion but also the entire Allied campaign across Western Europe. His ability to manage egos, cultures, and complex military operations made him a critical figure in the Allied victory and one of the most respected leaders of the 20th century. Charles de Gaulle was the leader of the Free French forces during World War II and a powerful symbol of French resistance against Nazi occupation. When Germany invaded France in 1940 and the French government chose to surrender, de Gaulle refused to accept defeat. From exile in London, he broadcast a famous speech on June 18, 1940, calling on the French people to resist German rule and continue the fight. Though he held no official power at the time, this act of defiance marked the beginning of his leadership in the Free French movement. De Gaulle was feared by the Nazis not because he led large armies into battle, but because he gave France a voice and a cause, even after its military collapse. He united scattered resistance groups, organized Free French forces abroad, and kept international attention on the goal of liberating France. The Germans recognized that de Gaulle's leadership made the French resistance more organized and more dangerous. His refusal to collaborate with the Vichy regime and his growing influence among the Allies posed a political and symbolic threat to Nazi control in France. One legendary moment came in 1944, after the liberation of Paris. De Gaulle marched triumphantly down the Champs-Élysées with French troops and enormous crowds cheering. It was not just a victory parade, it was a powerful statement that France had risen again as a free and sovereign nation. His presence ensured that France would not be treated as a defeated or occupied country in the post-war world, but as one of the victorious allies. During the war, Charles de Gaulle held the position of leader of the Free French forces and later became head of the Provisional Government of the French Republic. Though often at odds with Allied leaders like Churchill and Roosevelt, he fought fiercely for France's honor and independence. His leadership kept the spirit of French resistance alive and made him one of the most enduring figures of the war. Georgy Zhukov was the Soviet Union's most celebrated general during World War II and one of the most powerful military commanders of the 20th century. He played a leading role in nearly every major Soviet victory on the Eastern Front. Zhukov first made his name in 1939 with a decisive victory over Japanese forces at the Battle of Khalkhin Gol. But it was during the German invasion of the Soviet Union, starting in 1941, that he rose to global prominence. When Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, Zhukov was one of the key figures who organized the defense of Moscow, halting the German advance just miles from the Soviet capital. Zhukov was deeply feared by the Nazis for his unmatched ability to plan and execute massive, coordinated offensives that could grind down and destroy entire German armies. Hitler and his generals knew that when Zhukov was in command, the Soviets would fight with overwhelming force no matter the cost. He understood both the brutality and the scale of the Eastern Front, and he had a unique talent for turning desperate situations into victories. His leadership combined strategic brilliance with a willingness to sacrifice, and his offensives often came like unstoppable waves. One legendary moment in Zhukov's career was the Battle of Stalingrad in 1942 to 1943. Though not the frontline commander in the city itself, Zhukov helped plan Operation Uranus, the massive Soviet counterattack that encircled and trapped the German Sixth Army. The victory at Stalingrad marked a turning point in the war, as it shattered Germany's momentum and began a steady Soviet push westward. Zhukov's official role throughout much of the war was as Deputy Supreme Commander of the Soviet Armed Forces and Marshal of the Soviet Union. He later led the Red Army in the final assault on Berlin in 1945, personally accepting the German surrender. To the Nazis, Zhukov represented the terrifying force of the Soviet war machine, relentless, disciplined, and unstoppable. His victories broke the myth of German invincibility and helped crush the Nazi regime from the east. Omar Bradley was one of the most important American generals of World War II and a key leader in the Allied campaign in Europe. Known as the soldier's general for his calm demeanor and concern for the well-being of his troops, Bradley played a major role in planning and executing some of the war's most crucial operations. He first saw significant combat leadership in North Africa under General Eisenhower, and later commanded American forces during the invasion of Sicily in 1943, where he worked closely with both Patton and Montgomery. Bradley was feared by the Nazis not for dramatic battlefield flair, but for his steady, reliable leadership and ability to command massive operations with precision. As the war progressed, he became commander of the U.S. First Army and later the 12th Army Group, the largest group of American soldiers ever led under one commander. German commanders recognized Bradley's strength in logistics, coordination, and strategic planning. He could be counted on to carry out complex offensives without hesitation or waste, making him a dangerous and effective opponent. One legendary moment in Bradley's career came during Operation Cobra in July 1944. After the difficult fighting in the hedgerows of Normandy, Bradley planned and launched a massive breakout operation that shattered German defenses. Operation Cobra allowed American forces to burst out of the confined front lines and begin a rapid advance across France. It marked the turning point on the Western Front, shifting the momentum firmly in favor of the Allies. During the war, Bradley held the position of commander of the U.S. 12th Army Group, which included over 1 million men. He led American forces from the beaches of Normandy through France, Belgium, and into Germany. Though he was less flamboyant than generals like Patton, his quiet competence, leadership under pressure, and dedication to his troops made him one of the most respected and quietly feared American generals of the war.